and welcome to Build Your Own Virtual Stage Summit. My name is Ana Andrea, and today I have a special speaker with us. She is a 2 Club winner. If you know what I'm talking about, you know she's a big deal. She's an award-winning business coach who helps infopreneurs grow their businesses with proven online strategies, including virtual summits. Her name is Bailey Richert, and thank you so much for being here, Bailey. Tell us, how did you get into virtual summits, and why virtual summits? Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, virtual summits have been a huge part of my business for many years. I launched my very first one in 2016, I think. And I originally got into them because I was just getting my business started and was looking for a way to grow quickly. Virtual summits are an incredible growth strategy. And I had seen other people do virtual summits myself. I'd even been a speaker on a couple of people's virtual summits. And I started to learn from those hosts just how incredible a summit could be for growing your business. And so that's when I decided to launch my own. And as they say, the rest is history, because my first summit, of course I made mistakes, and it was my smallest summit that I ever did, but it was a huge part of my business. It made such an impact that I decided to make it an annual event. So I have since launched that particular summit, the Infopreneur Summit, 5 times annually since then. So it's, virtual summits are pretty crazy.
They are, but I know that they're a lot of fun as well. So talking about the craziness of events, because we had to talk about it. I know that a lot of our audiences, they're like, oh no, Anna, events, there's a lot of work. Well, yeah, but how can we make it less work, right? And how can we create an experience that everybody has fun, even the host that's creating it?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So in my course and in my teachings, I teach people how to launch a virtual summit in 90 days. And so I think, first of all, the key is really to recognize that you need to stay organized and you need to have a plan. And that's why I try to give people a plan with my 90-day launch plan, because if you're able to stay organized and have a plan, then you're able to stay calm. And that's really a huge, important part of all of this, is that if you as the host are freaking out and panicking and feeling rushed all the time, you're going to have a really negative experience yourself, but then you're going to project that onto other people, and it's going to be really negative for them as well. And that's not what we want. So a virtual summit launch is just like any other launch, whether you're going to launch a book or launch an online course, it doesn't matter. There's a particular time frame that you need to prepare, and then there's the promotional time frame, right? And then after that, there's the actual hosting of the event itself, right? The launch. And so that's pretty much the steps that I walk people through when you're launching your summit, is that in the beginning, it's the logistics and the organization and the inviting the speakers and the recording and the planning. And then from there, you start to move into, the launch of it, the promotion, getting the word out there, and you're on social media and all that sort of stuff, getting people to register, and then hosting the actual launch. And then to your question about, how can we make this enjoyable for everyone? I think remembering why the other stakeholders are participating is important. So everybody wants something different out of a summit, right? Like the speakers, they want exposure and they want to network and they want to also grow their list a little bit if possible. So what can you do to give them what they want? Well, you can highlight them in your promotions as much as possible. If you have a Facebook group, you can invite them to come in and do some, joint promotion Facebook Live with you. You can give them custom promotional assets and images and stuff, so that their face is prominently featured. You can do all of these things to really make sure that they feel like they're getting the star treatment. And then what is it that the attendees of your summit want? Well, they want lots of free training and content. They want to be connected with the speakers. So maybe if there's a Facebook group where the speakers and the attendees can connect, they want lots of freebies, so if you have your speakers, share some lead magnets and freebies, So just remembering what it is that people want out of the event and then doing your best to facilitate that will also really help.
Yeah, that's so true. That's right. Because you were saying about how we panic, and having a plan actually calms everybody out. Mm-hmm. And I think that puts it into perspective. So, we can transmit that calmness, like you said, right? If you're secure, then the speakers are going to be secure and they're going to be happy to help, right? And they're going to be happy to collaborate. But if you're like all frantic and desperate, they're like, maybe I don't want to work with them, right?
Right, definitely.
So,
You as the leader need to be calm.
Exactly. And that takes me to like the next question about speakers. How do we find the right speakers to the right topic? So that's a two-part question. How do we choose what to create the summit about, and how do we find those great speakers that are going to be aligned to the content? Because it's not, I've hosted summits myself. This is a summit, obviously. And it's not easy to find the right speakers because you have to take people from point A to point Z, right? Or if you want to make it that long, but you know the idea, right?
Yeah.
How do we choose a topic and get really good speakers that, you know, have a list and have exposure online, not only for everybody to win-win, but, you know, for us as hosts to get more exposure?
Right. Okay. So the first part of your question, what to make your summit about. So usually if you're hosting kind of an online summit, you probably have a business or you're looking to start a business. So the idea is that your summit would be supplementary to your business. So that gives you a starting point. But regarding, you know, what specifically to make your summit about, here's what I try to tell people is that when you host a summit, you're not only growing your email list and things like that, but you're also establishing your authority in your niche. So you have to ask yourself, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to be the go-to person for, right? So I'll use myself as an example. So I'm a business coach for infopreneurs, and I teach on a lot of different things. Yes, I teach on summits, but I also teach on courses and sales funnels and all this other sort of stuff. So I made my summit the Infopreneur Summit because I wanted to cover lots of different topics and I wanted to be known as the go-to coach for infopreneurs. I didn't want to just be the self-publishing expert or the course expert or the summit expert. I wanted to be a little bit broader. So you have to remember that people who are coming to your summit are likely experiencing you for the first time. They're having their first interaction with you. And so if you're hosting, you know, a summit that's all about self-publishing, people are going to start to remember you as, oh, they're the self-publishing summit host, or they, you know, they do a summit every year all about self-publishing. They're the self-publishing person. And if that's what you want to be known for, that's great. But if that's not all you want to be known for, if you want to be known for something else or something broader, you have to keep that in mind. So that's the first thing. And then when it comes to finding speakers, this is obviously a tricky situation because, like you said, you know, you want to make sure that you're inviting speakers who can, you know, teach on the content and actually deliver something good. But at the same time, as the host of the summit, you want results as well. So a lot of people are looking at virtual summits as a lead gen event. They're looking to grow their email list, right? So it's really important then that you invite speakers who have an email list. So it's not classy to ask people how big their email list is. We don't do that anymore. I think maybe 10 years ago, people used to do that, but we don't do that anymore. So how do you know if they have an email list? Well, you have to look at outside factors. So go to their website. How professional is their website, right? Do they have an email sign up on their website? If they don't, if you can't find out how to sign up for their newsletter, they're probably not collecting emails. So they might not have a good email list. Go to their social media profiles. Now, just because someone has 20,000 Instagram followers doesn't mean they have a list of 20,000 people, but it's a good place to start. Somebody who obviously has 20,000 followers or a Facebook group of 20,000 people probably has an email list that's bigger than someone who has zero. I mean, you have to look at all the platforms, right? Someone might be really big on Instagram and have no Facebook group, or someone might have a Facebook group and have no Twitter followers. You have to look at all the platforms. But it's a decent place to start to figure out, okay, did this person just start their business yesterday and they probably have no email list and no followers? Or are they kind of established and have, you know, a good grip on what they do? Now, to that point, there's another thing we have to consider as well, which is the different levels of influencers. So in my course, I talk about having A, B, and C, or high, mid, and low level influencers. And it doesn't have anything to do with how good of a teacher you are or how well you know your material. It's just about your level of influence. So Someone who just started their business yesterday would kind of be at the lower level. They might be amazing at what they do, but they don't have an email list, or they just started out. They don't have a following yet. Whereas someone like Tony Robbins is going to be all the way up here, right? Now, if you are doing a summit for the very first time and you're kind of small in your niche, you're not going to get Tony Robbins to come and speak on your summit. I'm sure he thinks you're great, but it's just pointless, and it's a lot of effort to chase someone down who's not going to agree to be on it. And even if he did, there's no point in having him on, because he's not going to promote for you, right? And so someone that comes onto your summit and then doesn't end up promoting is basically like not having that person at all, because they're not going to help you. They're not going to help use their platform to expand your summit's reach. And so what we're really looking for are people in the middle. So we're looking for a mid-level influencer, somebody who's not too famous, still wants to participate and still wants to be a partner with you in your event, but at the same time, didn't just start the business yesterday. They have an email list, they have some sort of following, they have an audience that they can promote your summit to, so that you'll actually be able to get some registrants and some sales and some email subscribers.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. But yeah, totally. I've noticed that myself in the previous summit that I did, right? Most of the B levels were the ones that were pushing and promoting, etc. And then those are close to the A level, right, are the ones that less promote. And I think that my audience right now, everybody that's watching is wondering, so how do we ask them to promote? How do we get them to be a partner, like you said, in our business? And I've found that, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on your experience, right, as well, that when you paint the vision of the event, you're clear on what the topic is and how they can help you, most speakers are open to participating.
Yeah, so I think that there's kind of two schools of thought. Some people say, well, you should be upfront and require your speakers to promote and let them know that they need to share with their email list twice and stuff. I don't really believe in that, because I think that when we dictate to other people how they need to promote to their audience, it's really presumptuous of us. And I think most influencers don't really like that. They've spent how many years building their email list and audience, and then here you come waltzing in, trying to tell them what to do. It doesn't come across very well. So what I usually say is to do the other thing, which is just to give them the option to promote and tell them, how much we would love it if they shared, and we equip them as much as possible. We give them email swipe copy. We give them promotional images that are customized with their headshot on it. We give them their unique affiliate link. And then, we do everything that we can to make the relationship good. So here's some things that you can do to make it more likely that they'll promote. So the first thing is that you need to put on the best event possible. So going back to what we said earlier, that you are organized, that you answer all of their questions promptly, that you make the process really easy for them to participate, no stress, no pressure. Every single step of the way, you come across looking like, I know what I'm doing, and it's organized and it's great. Because if you come across as really disorganized and you change the dates all the time of your summit and you don't know what's going on, no one's going to promote that, because they're afraid that it's not going to be good and that they're going to, end up promoting something bad to their audience. But another thing that you need to do is that you need to stay top of mind, which means that you need to be contacting your speakers every single week. Doesn't mean that you're bugging them to promote every week, but you just need to be keeping in contact. So like I said, I often tell people that the virtual summit launch process is about 90 days. So if you think about it, someone that you interview in the first 2 or 3 weeks of your process, you suddenly are going to launch 3 months later. They don't remember what they were interviewed for 3 months ago. And they, a lot of these influencers, they are doing a lot of interviews, maybe not always for summits, sometimes for podcasts and things. And if you don't contact them at all, like if you just interview them and then you have no contact, and then 3 months later you come to them and say, hey, I want you to promote this, they're going to say, who are you again? What was this? What was I interviewed for? They're not going to remember, and they're not going to share it because they don't have any connection to it. So as the summit host, you need to be doing everything you can to remain top of mind or just stay connected. So from the moment that you invite them to be on the summit, every single week, send them an email just updating them. It doesn't have to be long, just a little bit, just letting them know, hey, we're a couple of weeks out from promotion still, but I just wanted you to know that we got a brand new speaker who's going to be talking about self-publishing. And that's really awesome. And I'm super excited. And I'll be back in your email inbox next week with a couple more updates. That's it. If you just let them know what's going on with the summit, you're constantly like reminding them what's happening, because these people are very busy and they have a lot of launches on their calendar and a lot of things that are going on. So that's a huge part of it.
Absolutely. Top of mind. Sending them a message on social media. Hi, how are you doing? Reacting to their stories, right? Being engaged in their social media if they're very engaged too. That also helps, I think, because that creates connection. And I think social media has close the gap in a lot of things when we can reach out to people, and a lot of them are going to be willing to help and connect with you.
Mhm.
I think that's a great answer. Thank you, Bailey, for that. Yeah, totally. So this takes me to the next question, right? The following up. You were talking about sending updates. Now, how do we follow up with grace in class without sounding desperate to those speakers that said yes at the beginning, but now they're having scheduling issues or something happened, life happened. Like I had a speaker for this summit that she lives in Texas. So she had some issues right now with the weather, right? That historically had never, ever happened. So there's things that we cannot control. So how do we keep them committed to showing up and doing the recording and everything?
Right. So normally I recommend that, people always communicate over email, but sometimes there are other channels that people prefer to use. So if you're using email and you're finding that someone is not responding to you, they just haven't sent you an email back, or, they're having some sort of issue, maybe either something's wrong with their email, or probably they're just not big into email. Maybe they would prefer to use Voxer or Facebook Messenger or Instagram or something. So you can ask them, hey, is there another platform that it's easier to get a hold of you on? Because I would be happy to communicate with you through there. Because if you can send someone a message on Voxer and they'll respond really quickly, that's obviously a better way to communicate with them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I would see if that person has an assistant. Now, normally I prefer to do work directly with the speaker themselves, but if you do end up getting somebody that's, a little bit of a higher influencer and they're having trouble responding to you, sometimes working with their assistant can be really helpful, because that assistant is going to answer all their emails, make sure they get you the headshot and the bio and the information you need. They're going to make sure that speaker gets on the calendar and that the interview with you is scheduled, and they're going to make sure that they show up. I mean, that's sometimes what an executive assistant does, is kind of, being the parent for that influencer and making sure
Right.
they do everything they're supposed to do. So working with that assistant can sometimes be really helpful. Now, I will say that you have to also ask yourself at a certain point, is it worth having this influencer on my summit? So even though you ask them, and even if they said yes, if you are constantly having to chase this person down and beg them to do what they're supposed to do you think they're probably going to promote for you? No, they're not. I mean, it would be really cool to have them on, and I'm sure they're really good at what they do and they can provide some great content. But if at the end of the day, they're not really viewing themselves as a partner with you, you might want to think about just moving on and saying, hey, Joe, I really appreciate the fact that you had agreed to be on my summit and that you wanted to participate. And the truth is, I would still love to have you, but you haven't answered any of my last 5 emails, and I've been trying to get this scheduled. And if we don't get it scheduled this week, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to fill your spot with somebody else who's more available and ready to deliver the content. You can say it in a nice way that is also professional and also gives people a final chance. Don't just grab the rug out from under them. But if you give them one final chance and say, look, I really need you to commit and deliver, otherwise I'm going to have to get somebody else to fill your spot, then you'll know either that was going to make them do it or not. And if not, then you have your answer that they wouldn't have promoted for you anyway, and you're better off finding someone else who still sees themselves as a partner.
That's That's really good. Yeah, that's true. I've had to say no to speakers myself, and it's not easy. It's like firing a client.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
hard, and you have to be diplomatic about it. And like you said, not just getting the rug off their feet, but explaining like, hey, I have a time limit. Like I said to my speakers, for example, hey, I'm recording until this date. And now since, life happened and Texas happened, I'm like, okay, let's push another week, but not change the dates, like you said, because if we're changing the dates a lot too, that will creating instability for the speaker, and
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, you know what, let's do it try another time.
Mhm.
And they're just saying that to be polite.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
They sometimes they are. Yeah. I would definitely not move the dates of my summit for one speaker who has scheduling issues. That's ridiculous. You have to
Yeah,
stick to your plan.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but some people do ridiculous things. Right. So actually that takes me to another question, because okay, so we have the speakers, we're recording, we're creating the funnels, we're doing all this. At what point do we stop the DIY, the do it yourself, and hire help? Like maybe one person or two that can help you create the funnels and the emails and all that while you're focusing recording on the content.
Sure. So I think one of the things that you have to ask yourself in your own business is just, are you ready to hire help? Do you have the budget for it? Have you ever hired someone before? Do you want to hire somebody just for this project, or part-time or full-time? There's all these questions that you need to ask yourself. But I have found that having at least one person to help you can definitely make the job a lot easier, because like you just said, you as the expert and as the host are going to be responsible for doing the interviews. You have to do those. Nobody else, you can't outsource the interviews. But there are a lot of other things that unfortunately need to get done that starts a backlog because you're so focused on the interviews. Most of it has to do with the content. So it's about video editing and closed captioning and transcribing and creating a PDF of notes and extracting the MP3s and creating video thumbnails, images for your videos, and maybe finishing your funnel and a few other tech things like that. So I often find that hiring somebody that has an expertise in the content side of things, with some editing and the graphics and all that sort of stuff, some video experience, is usually the best thing you can do for yourself, because that allows you to focus on the interviews and then someone else can help you with all that content stuff. So my recommendation is, if you don't have full-time staff, and this is not the time to hire someone full-time for the first time ever, you can either bring on someone part-time or even just a couple of hours. You can say, hey, I just would like to get you, for 4 or 5 hours a week. You can look at Upwork or Fiverr or any one of those, type sites, or go into Facebook groups and see if, there's any VA that has some availability right there. If you've never worked with people before, like if you've never been somebody's boss before or hired someone, it's going to be a learning experience, so you need to realize that you're not just getting someone to help you, but you're also learning how to, delegate work and stuff like that. But I think that's really the number one area, is with that video and the content stuff, which in the process out of the 90 days usually comes towards the end of the first month and in the second month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because video editing is not easy. I
No,
talk from experience.
it's very
Right?
time consuming.
It's very time consuming. And not only that, it's a hard drive consuming thing because it eats up your memory.
That's true. It definitely does.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about money,
Okay.
because most of the summits that I've attended, they're free. And they have this all access pass.
Right.
Now, I've had clients that have been told to not sell their replays. Now, the clients I convinced have made some money, like 4 or 5 figures, just for the replays.
Right.
Now, how do we decide the price of the all access pass? With her, for example, we went very low, like $47 for 21 videos. So it's a no-brainer deal.
Mhm.
How do we decide that, babe?
Right. So what you're describing is very typical, and it's what I recommend my students as well, which is offering the free ticket at the front end, which is how you get people to become your subscriber. That's how you grow your email list. If you make it only paid, you're going to miss out on all of those subscribers. But then you have this upgrade opportunity to the All Access Pass, like you said, which is the unlimited access. That's the membership area that contains all of the replays, all the videos, some bonus content, transcripts, notes, maybe all this extra stuff. And you're right, pricing it can be difficult, but here's what I like to tell people, two things. So the first thing is pricing low is usually a good idea because remember, a lot of these people that are coming to you have never heard of you before. They're either cold audience members or maybe warm because, you have that affiliate who's lending you the expertise and saying, oh, this is good, you should get it. But the reality is somebody who has never heard of you before is not going to spend $300 on some sort of virtual pass, right? But they might spend 30 or 40 or 50, right? So we want to make that a no-brainer deal because you can always increase your profits with your upsells, your order bumps, and then with a proper launch of a course or something when your summit is over to this new hot, warm list that you have already created. So the other thing I also tell people is to think about your pricing tiers. So you don't have to just have one price. You can also increase the price as the launch goes forward. So let's say you have a price that's before the summit begins, maybe that's 47, but when the summit begins, like the week of the summit, it goes up to 67. And then when the summit ends, it goes up to 97. So you can have these built-in price increases because you're doing a proper live launch. The videos aren't live, but the dates of the summit, it's a live launch. And so everybody knows that when the summit begins and ends, the price is going up. And you can use your email marketing to remind people, send emails and say, hey, everyone, just wanted to remind you the price is going up. Grab your pass before the price goes up. And usually we see a little spike in sales around that time as well. So yeah, I think that those are some things to keep in mind.
That's really good things to keep in mind. Keep it cheap, even if you feel like you have to charge $5,000 for your services, because you guys are valuable. Who you're watching, they're valuable. Their services are amazing. But like you said, most of the people don't even know who the heck we are, the hosts, right? They're coming in to see the speaker and to see what the speaker answered and all that. So yeah, that's a really good tip. And this brings me to my last question, Bailey. How do we measure a successful virtual summit? Do we measure it money-wise, experience-wise? What do you recommend?
Well, I think everybody has a particular goal that they're trying to, reach. And so for a lot of people, that is the email subscribers, but it is also the revenue. So those are kind of the two most obvious metrics that you can look at. But there are clearly plenty of other things that can determine whether your summit was successful. Did you get podcast interview invitations? Were you able to network with other people and maybe you'll do some sort of JV webinar or joint project together with them, So were you able to push people that registered for your summit into your free Facebook group, So there's all these other things that you need to look at. But specifically when it comes to the email subscribers and the sales, I always tell people that it's not just about the number itself. It's not just about, oh, we got 3,000 leads, therefore it was a success. It doesn't work like that. You have to look at your percentages, right? So you need to take a look at, the percentage on your landing page. Were you getting 50% opt-in rates or better? Because that would be incredible. When it comes to the money, you need to look at your percentage conversion. So out of all the people who registered, were you able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% conversions in sales? When it comes to the upsells, were you able to get 5 to 10% on the upsells? Look at that metric because that's going to tell you whether or not your pricing was right. That's going to tell you whether or not you're attracting the right audience. That's going to tell you whether or not you are offering the right types of products and content to this new audience that you have. So that's really where you need to look, because I've had people who've done summits and maybe they'll walk away and say, well, I only got 1,000 subscribers. And I'll say, yeah, but you only had 15 speakers and you had a 50% opt-in rate and you had a 5% purchase rate. Like that's amazing. Like you need to look at all of these other metrics. People, they'll give these like really random numbers, oh, I want to have a 6-figure summit. but they don't know what that takes. I'll say, all right, well, if you want to sell 6 figures on your summit, we do all the back calculations, you need to get 50,000 leads. And they're like, what? That's so many. And I'm like, yeah, that's how numbers work. You got to do the math and look at the actual percentages and the conversions and everything. You can't just give these arbitrary numbers and then say, oh, I reached my goal, therefore it was a success, or I didn't reach my goal, it's not a success. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you, because those metrics that we like plaster on the wall like pasta, right, are just like vanity metrics. And what we really need to look at, you're right, it's the percentages, like how many people attended, how many people watched the actual video, how much time they watched it, did they convert, did they buy the upsell, are they excited?
Right.
That's really, yeah. It's really good insight. Thank you so much, Bailey, for your time. Thank you for being here. And for everybody watching, remember to comment below and ask questions, because I'm going to email them back to Bailey. She allows
Perfect.
me. Thank you so much for being here, Bailey. And tell us where they can find you so that they can connect with you as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. Anybody who's interested in learning more about me can go to BaileyRichert.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your gifts and your time, Bailey. Have a great day. And thank you, everybody. I will see you in the next session. Bye-bye.